And of course, Wooden Sticks Golf Club as well. How's the food? Is it good? Good. All right. Our first speaker, well, I would not actually be here if it weren't for our first speaker. Back in 2018, this was a man who was actually part of the Conservative Party of Canada. And he got tired of lying. He got tired of biting his tongue. He got tired of being a coward. And he said, you know what? I am tired of the morally and intellectually corrupt Conservative Party of Canada. He left, and they called him Mad Max in the media. And he started this thing called the People's Party of Canada. Heard of that? And that was really when I actually decided to get involved in politics and realizing how much work there is to do in this country. And look at all the people in here now today. To me, what's inspiring about Max is that it's really inspiring one Canadian at a time. Max inspired me, I inspired others, and that continues to go on with Tish Conlon and the other people in this room today. Every little conversation makes a massive difference. Max is the only person who's opposed lockdowns. The only person who strongly opposes mass immigration and calls for mass deportations. He's brave, he's courageous, he's exactly what this country needs right now. With no further ado, Maxime Bernier, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Greg.
No problem. Do you want it in the stand or you want to just grab it?
Oh, yeah, later. Okay. Thank you, Greg. Is he good? He's good in person, but also on social media. So, I'm very pleased, very happy to be here with Tish, and I was this morning also with Lisa. That's an important time for us and for the future of our country. I'm here to help our candidates, but also to promote our ideas. As you know, the time is tough for us, and it is tough because of bad economic policies, because of a bad government, a Trudeau government, and now a Carney government. Oh yeah, they are globalist. They are not there for us, and actually, they are telling us that they want to do everything for us to be a sovereign, independent country with that trade war with our friend Americans. But as you know, we are there to speak about the real common sense. And I want to take one example of that, the trade war. I said in the beginning of the campaign that we must not engage in a trade war against the US. Because they are 10 times bigger than us. We won't win a trade war. And actually, if Trump is imposing tariffs, that will be, and that is, the American consumers who are paying that, and American businesses. Trump is doing that because he wants to repatriate the manufacturing sector in the US. And Trump did a campaign on America first, US first, and American first. Make America great again. And to do that, yes, you need to have more industries in your country. And I want to do the same, by the way. And we want to do the same. We want to make our country great. We are doing that for Canadian first. And yes, like Trump, I want us to have more Canadian businesses investing here in Canada and other businesses coming to our country. And the best way to do that is to be more attractive with better fiscal policies, with better economic policies. So the tariff that Trump is imposing, it is not hurting us. And the fact that President Trump said, you know, I like Canada, I want Canada to be the 51st state. And speaking about the prime minister being a governor. When he's doing that, and I did read his book, The Art of a Deal, when he's doing that, it's only to discredit his partners with whom he wants a deal. He's used to do that. So for me, we must not take that seriously. But Carney and Polyev use that to play with our emotions like they did during COVID-19. They used fear and propaganda during COVID-19 to change our behavior, for us to listen the big authoritarian government when that government was telling us to stay at home and to shut down the economy. Now they use fake patriotism. It's fake because they Polyev and Carney and the media are saying, oh, you know, maybe we won't be Canadian anymore. Maybe, you know, we'll be at a 51 state. No, we are a sovereign country. That was a joke, a bad joke, but they are using that to use fake patriotism to try to impose on us more taxes with tariffs. You know, they love you so much, the liberals and the conservative, that they are telling you, we will impose counter tariff. But by doing that, what they're doing, they are taxing us. We will pay Canadian consumers these tariffs. We have inflation right now, and the prices will go up for everything that is coming from the US, all our imports from the US. And they think that is the right thing to do for Canadians. And worse than that, the former Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, wrote a letter in the National Post 3 weeks ago. And he said, you know, we don't want to be the 51 state, and we need to fight Trump, the bad orange man. We need, no, he's not orange anymore. He's white. So we need to fight Trump to keep our country. And, you know, we need to impose counter tariffs, dollar for dollar. And, you know, we'll do that for you Canadians, and we may create a recession by doing that, but that's okay. You will pay more taxes, you will lose your job, but that's okay. We love that country. We love you guys. They don't. They're not working for us. We don't need to impose tariff. We just need to be sure that our economy will be more productive. What we must do is to lower taxes. But before that, we need to balance the budget, our budget. And we can balance the budget. In 1 year, Polyev won't speak about that. He's supposed to be fiscally responsible. Balancing the budget, after that, all the surplus must go to lower taxes. For businesses, they would be more competitive, abolishing the capital gains tax, taxes to us individual. And, you know, the corporate tax rate right now in Canada, if you add the federal one and the provincial one together, it's about 26%. In US, it's 24%, and Trump said that he will lower that. So if we don't do that, our Canadian businesses won't be competitive, they won't be profitable, and they will have the right incentive to go to the US instead of stay to Canada. So we need to lower corporate taxes. Our proposal is a flat tax at 15%, and like that, they will have more profit, they will be able to be more competitive. We need to do that. We need to be sure to have a more and a stronger economy, not, you know, imposing tariff that will, you know, create a recession. And the last news about the tariff is Carney. This week, he said, you know, I don't like, you know, what Trump is doing. I will impose tariffs on import cars from the US. Because I'm mad at Trump, and I want to hurt Trump and the Americans. But he will do the opposite. But it's a little bit complicated how he will calculate that. But that being said, he said, I will raise $8 billion by doing that. And you know that I will give that to big car automakers. I will give that money to them. What he's telling us, in fact, that means that he will tax Canadian consumers. He will take from them $8 billion that he will give to big corporations. So that's taxing the poor to give that to rich corporations. That is what he's doing. And Polyev said, it's okay. What I will do, I will lower the GST, no more GNC on your new car. You know, the solution is don't do that. Don't impose the poor to give that to the rich. That's what is happening. That's why you need our candidates, the common sense PPC candidates, to fight for us in Ottawa. We are ready to do that. We will do it. And we are putting our country first. And that's not a slogan, by the way. That's the reality. And as you may know, with my voice, and that's great when I'm losing my voice, because that means that I'm working for you guys and I'm speaking and being out there and delivering speeches. So, being real and fighting for Canadians, for me, that's, and for our candidates, that's not an empty slogan. Pierre is very good with empty slogan. We know it, you know. Fix the budget. Okay. Axe the tax. Oh, that one is not good anymore because Carney axed the tax also. But the real one is withdraw from the Paris Accord. You won't do it, we will do it. And when I'm doing these podcasts, Canadians and American one, I've always the same question. And the one that Patrick Bet David asked me, and he was mad at it, how come Polyev is not coming to my podcast? You know, he said, President Trump was with me, and he did a lot of podcasts, and he was able to win the presidential election. Harris and the Democrats didn't do any podcasts. That's the future if you are in politics. People want you to sit down and not having, you know, an empty slogan for 15 seconds, to have a discussion. So he asked me, do you know why Polyev is not coming to my podcast? I said, yes. He won't be able to have a discussion with you because it's all about slogan. You know, he's going to say, I will fix the budget. You're going to ask, what do you mean by that? You're going to say, balancing the budget. Okay, what do you mean by that? In how many years? Oh, I don't know, 3 years, 5 years, but I will balance the budget. How will you do that? Oh, maybe, you know, I will cut spending for about $30 billion. Oh, great. What will you cut? In details. I cannot tell you. You know, we need to be in government and to look at all the spendings, and I'll be able to tell you after the elections. You know, they cannot answer the real questions. They don't know, and Polyev doesn't know what he believes in today because he will need to do polling to know what you want to hear. And after that, he will do focus group to know which words he must use. That's the politics of today. We are not doing that. We are answering questions. We are asking questions. We have a strong platform. And that's easy for me because we have always the same platform since the creation of that party in 2018. So my wife is not with me today because she can deliver the speech. She can, you know, she knows all that. the platform that we did fight for in 2019, in 2021, and in 2025, if it is the same platform. We are doing politics differently with our ideas, and our ideas are strong, and that's why we will win this battle of ideas. But we need you guys, Tish, Lisa, and all our candidates across the country need you. Because if you share our ideas, you need to be out there and to have the courage of your conviction, to speak to your friends, your family, your co-workers about your vision for this country. What is the goal if you have the best ideas for this country and you keep them for yourself? I want you to be part of the change. That is a revolution that we are doing today, a real revolution. And we need everybody to do that revolution together. Because without you, nothing will happen. This is the People's Party. This is your party. And that's not just a name of a party, People's. No, it is real. Read our policy. It is for you guys. It is for your children, for your family. That may take some time before being in government. I hope I'll be Prime Minister April 28, but we don't know. But I can tell you, we will win. Our time will come because of you, because of our candidates, because of Canadians across the country who are fed up with traditional politicians, who are telling you what you want to hear without any conviction, and the day after they will tell you something else. And they are speaking to you like you are, babies. Listen to Polyev. He will repeat his slogan in an interview maybe 5 times and try to put the slogan in a sentence. And so you listen to the sentence, okay, fix the budget. Okay, it's crazy. They're doing that because they think that you are stupid and they want to play with your emotions. We think that you are intelligent, and you are intelligent. You need to read our platform. You need to do a little effort to come to our party and speak with our candidates. We don't have any visibility by the mainstream media and a little bit by the alternative media, but the best media is you. And you are able to do what our candidates are doing, speaking from the heart about what you believe and what you want for this country. If you do that, if everybody is doing that, this party, this movement will grow, and nothing can stop an ideas when that time is coming. And our time is coming right now. Look at the situation in this country. The economy is down the drain, inflation at the roof, our social fabric not working anymore. We have people that are coming here, they don't speak French, okay. They don't speak English. They don't speak English. So they cannot integrate into our society. Let's stop that. Let's have a moratorium. And we need that moratorium. I need our candidates. So today I want to thank you very much for taking your time to be with Tish, to be with us today, and to give you your time first, to give you a little bit of your money, but also you are giving us hope. The fact that you are here, you are giving me hope. You are giving me energy. And that's why, I like what I'm doing. I will travel and meet our candidates all across the country. And I can tell you, the day of the election, we can be the biggest surprise of the election. And we will be that biggest surprise. Thank you, everybody. Stay strong and free. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Thank you.
Maxime Bernier, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Give it a round of applause for Maxime Bernier for making it out here today to support Tish Conlon in York, Durham. And we are here to raise money for Tish, but, you know, we wouldn't all be here, all these different people, if it weren't for Tish Conlon. She is a business owner. She is an international speaker. She is a mother of two. She's an author. And she is the hardest working candidate in York, Durham. I mean, look at this beautiful venue. Look at these amazing speakers. Maxime Bernier. We're going to be hearing from Frank Stronach later. But without further ado, let's hear from Tish Conlon.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. What a great crowd. I'm so thrilled. I'm so pumped. You know, some people have come from a ways have had no power for the last week. So hopefully the power goes back on. What an incredible ice storm we witnessed. Thank you to Maxime. I mean, we are among greats. What a man of conviction and courage. And I am so honored to stand beside this great man who loves Canada so much that he's willing to go against the whole mainstream narrative for you guys, for a better future. Yeah. I'm also so honored to have another Canadian great here, Frank Stronach, a man who has come to Canada. Has created meaningful work, fueled our manufacturing sector, which has been decimated, tens of thousands of great jobs, and he believes in economic reform, and he's going to talk about that after. Myself, I wanted to tell you the story of how I got here, because a lot of people don't know, and sometimes people don't even understand still. I have to explain to my family. But, you know, it's all about courage and faith for me. And so important as we're in a time of fear. Everyone is making decisions out of fear. And for me, though, in my life, courage and faith have always guided me well. I stepped into the uncertainty of courage and faith many times in my life, and it's always worked out. I'll take you right back to when I was a little girl, and I was the youngest of four, wonderful parents. I got kicked out of kindergarten because they didn't think I was of age. I was so small. So I think that fighting spirit was in me from a little girl. I became a competitive gymnast and trained with the Olympic team and went to Barcelona as a volunteer. It was so exciting, and I think that discipline as well stayed with me for the rest of my life. After training as a gymnast, I became very interested in martial arts. I was drawn to it, and I stepped into courage and faith. And I trained for 10 years, and I brought my black belt because I was the first woman in Canada to get my black belt in shoot wrestling. And this is a symbol for all of us because fear is destroying our country. People are making decisions, the lesser of two evils, out of fear. And if we can step into courage and faith, we can really make a difference in our country and in our world. The biggest virus is in the mind, and it's fear. This was the first time I stepped into courage and faith. When I graduated from university, I had an arts degree, and what do you do with that? I joined a recruiting firm. And within a year, they went bankrupt. So what do? I stepped immediately into courage and faith, and I started my business, Global Consulting Group. It was such a journey. I remember the first day I started, I was in the lower bedroom of my parents' home. My dad had lost his job as well. And my mom was answering a landline, Global Consulting Group. I've got family with me today. My sister worked with me for 20 years, and we had an incredible business. Up to 10 staff. I bought a building on Main Street, Markham. I loved it. I just loved my work, and I still do. I'm a huge supporter of entrepreneurs, and I want to fuel our entrepreneurship in Canada. After I met my husband, we moved to Port Perry. We had the great joy and honor of buying a car dealership, the GM car dealership here in Scugog. And unfortunately, with the great recession, the financial collapse of that time, who would have known GM went bankrupt? And it really triggered something in my family. My husband, with the stress, got diagnosed with a progressive autoimmune disease. And it was really frustrating and sad to watch him decline. And the safe and effective drugs that he was given weren't working. They were making him worse. This was the time, again, I stepped into courage and faith, pursued a completely new path, and I went back to school to become a holistic nutritionist. And in 2012, I wrote my first book, ABCs of Food. It wasn't just food that I was seeing that was destroying our lives. The food we eat, yes, the corruption in the food sector is awful within the big pharma, but it was also our emotions, our toxic emotions and thoughts. So I retrained as a certified emotional intelligence trainer. I explored a new path. I got into public speaking. I loved that. I was all over the U.S. speaking on important issues. Mentally prepared for anything was a keynote of mine. And I started doing facilitated workshops. And one of the questions I asked people in my workshops, whether it was corporate or anything, it was, what's your life purpose? What's your life mission? And everyone should ask themselves that too. For me, it was always simple. I want to help people live healthier and happier lives. And so when 2019 hit and there was this brewing of COVID, I knew I wouldn't be able to stay silent. And when COVID really hit, I started off going along, but then quickly saw a disconnect when natural immunity wasn't a thing anymore, when the safe treatments weren't allowed. And so I did speak out. In 21, I spoke out against what was happening with the lockdowns that bankrupted our little business and the mandates that made workers take an experimental product just to keep their job. For that stand, that courage, that conviction, I did lose my business. I was deleted off of LinkedIn and YouTube, and a lot of friends fell away too. It was very, very sad. It was a stand that I was prepared to take, though, for the future of our country. We can never let that happen again. Once I stepped into the fight, I couldn't stop. So I kept going. My business had been destroyed. I started a podcast. I wrote my second book, The Thrive Protocol, and I just saw the need. So we were speaking to one person at the time at the doors, and it didn't matter if it was left or right. Everyone was agreeing something's wrong. I ran again in last year, 2024, and people were really starting to come our way. All of the issues that weren't addressed by the mainstream parties, the mass immigration, the removal of parental rights, the harms being done with ideologies in the schools, mental health issues. We've got increased in suicide with our youth. They don't see a future. Cost of living, everything was piling up and it wasn't being addressed. But the main thing that I noticed is people were afraid. They're afraid to step into a new path, a courageous choice, a new beginning. And I'm here to tell you, I can't promise that I'm going to win this election, but I can tell you I'm not voting for the mainstream parties ever again. They've lost my trust. Catherine Austin Fitts said, the currency of the future is trusted relationships. And we have to look to leaders who stood up in this time, who stood apart, and who told us a better path forward. Not the same old fake slogans. The slogans of the Conservative campaign were the same in the by-election. They're the same now. The candidates aren't allowed to go in the debates. They weren't then. I'm not sure if they will be now, but it's not looking like they'll be in the debate in my area. How can you trust someone who you can't speak to about any real issues, who isn't going to be there for you, who isn't going to fight for you? You know, I tell people we may not agree on everything, but you know I'm going to be honest, I'm going to represent you well, and I'm going to work hard. We have a lot of big choices to make in our country. We have Alberta that is looking to separate if they don't get, change. We have people across Canada who are increasingly frustrated. We have increased poverty. It's not the way that Canada can be. We have an incredible country. We have a rich country. We are a natural resource treasure. We have lakes, we have forests, we have the best people. So we just need new leadership. In my journey, I've always taken the tougher path, the path that required some faith and courage. And I'm asking everyone today to step into that same courage and faith. I know it's really hard now. There's this polarization going on both sides. We just have to get Kearney out on one. And the other is never Polyev. It's incredible. Like there's a dichotomy. There's another choice. There's a better choice for all Canadians. We could win a number of ridings if people just stepped into courage and faith and voted for their values, for a better future, and for their children. I'm running for PPC and I'm honored to do so. It's by far the best platform for all Canadians, the best economic platform, the best platform for the elderly, the best platform for the youth, the best platform for families. It's the platform that will help us save Canada and take our country back and protect our sovereignty. We're a great country. I love this country with all my heart and I love this community. And so please, on April 28th, think about your values. A vote for anything else, in my opinion, is a wasted vote. We really have an opportunity to turn York-Durham purple. I hope you vote for your values, and I hope that you vote for Patricia Conlon on April 28th. So thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Tish, you are a powerhouse. Thank you for inviting our team from the Canadian Economic Charter here to this event. Tish, you are courageous, compassionate, and you are a fighter. Tish Conlon is an advocate, a mother, an entrepreneur, and a community leader. She stands for Canadian values. She stands up for small business, for freedom, for health, and for community. We need leaders in federal parliament like Tish Conlon. This coming election is a critical one. We must vote for leaders that stand for and protect our Canadian values. Tish Conlon is that leader. She understands the struggles of small business due to ballooning bureaucracy. She understands the struggles of raising a family in uncertain times due to degrading living standards and unaffordability. Thank you, Tish, for throwing your hat into the ring. We hope to see you gain a seat in this upcoming federal election. We know Canada needs leaders like you. As Tish mentioned, we need to vote for candidates, strong candidates, not continuously trapping ourselves in fear of splitting the vote and trapping ourselves in a two-party system. We need new leadership. We need change. We need people like you, Tish. Thank you. It is my honor to introduce the legendary Frank Stronach. Frank Stronach immigrated to Canada with just a few dollars in his pocket. He rented a garage in downtown Toronto, started off as a one-man operator, and built a company into a $40 billion in sales business with 180,000 employees, 440 factories in 34 different countries. Frank Stronach could have chosen to live anywhere, but at 92 years young, Frank Stronach is fighting for a better future in Canada. Frank Stronach is on a mission to eliminate poverty and boost living standards in this country. Before I introduce Frank Stronach to speak, I would like to bring your attention to the screen behind me on a short video on who is Frank Stronach.
He really is a true entrepreneur, and he's always thinking about how do you get the best out of people? How do you motivate them and include them so that everybody's working in the same direction? And that's really what has made Magna great.
The unique thing about Frank Stronach and Magna is their commitment to activist social responsibility. You can't just be thinking about stuff, you got to do it.
Frank's philosophy always has been very simple. He says, make a better product for a better price. Magna has been known for a lot of different things. One I'd say would be excellence in manufacturing, starting with excellence in tooling. But Magna has also been known for a lot of really innovative products. The stow and go seat for Chrysler was a Magna brainchild. The child seat was another one. But I think his biggest legacy will be creating a structure and a culture in a company that allows it to grow organically and not become so top-heavy and controlling that the people in the company don't feel part of it.
The idea of the decentralized structure where your managers weren't working for you, they were your partner because they all had equity in the company. That was way, way ahead of its time.
Frank doesn't think of himself any different than anybody. If we go into a plant, he'll go eat in the cafeteria, he talks to people. He sees everybody as equal. Everybody has an equal opportunity to succeed. Everybody has an equal opportunity to work hard.
And I think his example of always trying to cause people to be sensitive to what's around them is one of the core reasons why I think Magna is celebrated as one of the greatest corporations in the world today.
Part of Frank's philosophy in the corporate constitution was we would give away a predetermined portion of our profits to charity. There was one example where Hurricane Katrina occurred, and over the weekend, he thought a good solution would be to take people in that affected area, not just give money, but also give time and effort.
Frank Stronach saw people drowning in New Orleans, picked up the phone and said, get a Magna plane, get some people, go to New Orleans, get 400 people, take them from New Orleans over to Florida where we have a training facility, dormitories. Then I want you to go back, buy 1,000 acres of land, and we have to build a village within 120 days to house those people, and we're going to make a commitment for 5 years. I personally think it was Frank's finest hour.
He's not wondering what's going to happen or the process. In his mind, he sees the end state, and he's just going to go for it because he believes in it that passionately. And I think when you have that deep a belief and that deep a passion in something, you can accomplish a lot.
The Magna accomplishment cannot be debated.
Not only is he a visionary in the automotive industry, but it's too bad we didn't have more Frank Stronachs in the world because the whole world would be a much better place.
Mr. Stronach will be happy to take questions after his speech. Please join me in giving Mr. Stronach a warm welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Warner, being a guest hostess up here. Okay, before I start my speech, I should make an important announcement. If I would live at this riding here, there's no question I would vote for Tish Conlon. You know, I read her book, you know, very, very thoroughly, and it's a sign of an independent mind. And that's the kind of people we should have in Parliament. Not where a few parliamentarians, the older ones, say, look, that's the program, and you all do the line. I think we need people in Parliament. We say, no, this is the right thing for Canada, right? And I think this would be that kind of a person, right? Okay, so what can I say? Life is really a question of fate and circumstances, being at the right places at the right time, with the right ingredients. Lots of things can happen, right? I've been very blessed with a good mind and good health. And so, when we were younger, we all hustle a bit to make some monies so we can live in dignity. And as stated before, I had about over 400 factories in 34 different countries. I could have lived in dignity in any one of those countries, but I chose Canada. It's a great, great, great country, and we got to be careful that we don't lose it by default, right? So over the years, I've been on the boards on many universities. I gave lectures right from Harvard, right across the States, right across Canada, right across Europe, but when you get older, you sort of sit back a bit and you ask yourself, what's the purpose of life? Okay, I think in life you should have a purpose. Your life has been exceptional, great to me. Yes, I've seen the lowest of the lows, the highest of the highs. Yes, there were times when I was hungry not because I wanted to lose weight. I was hungry because I had no money to buy food. If you experiment that would never leave you. That's burned in your soul. And that's why I think I'm, having had such great success. I should maybe, it's very difficult to understand how one person could build a company with 180,000 employees, right? So in 54, I arrived in Toronto. I had $200 in my pocket. I'm a dual and die maker by trade, so I got a job in a small company. And the owner, after a few months, said, Frank, you're doing a great job. I want you to be a partner of mine. He was a nice man, but he never wrote it down. So I said, I got a job where I got paid a lot more. So in 57, I had about $5,000 in the bank. In 1957, that was a lot of money. You could buy a small house or a small farm. I rented a small building and bought a few used machines on a down payment, and out I went hustling. I went in the factories and I said, I'm very good in solving problems. If I can't solve them, you don't have to pay me. Anyway, I solved problems because after 1 month I hired a person. After a year I had about 10 people. After 2 years, 20. And the first evolution set in. I had a German fellow as my foreman. His name was Herman. And I said to him, Herman, you're acting a little different lately. What's up? Well, he said, I wanted to talk to you anyway. So I said, what about? Well, he said, I'm thinking of starting my own business. I said, yeah, I sympathize with you. But I said, look, let's talk tomorrow. Maybe we find a better solution. So fine. That evening I was talking to myself. If that phone's going to leave me, that would stifle my growth. I didn't like that. The other reason was, if that foreman's got to leave me, I got to do all the work myself. I like that even less. So the next reason was, if I hire a new foreman and they don't show him how business is run, I still got to do all the work. But anyway, the next day I said to him, look, why don't we open up a new factory, and you're on a third? And so he said, you mean it? I said, yes. We went right away to a lawyer, wrote it down. And we built that factory, and the guy was hustling. That was his place. Like, he was so proud. So over the years, I took the next foreman, the next foreman, the next foreman. So in about 5 years, I took another 7 foremen, did the same thing. And we had cash flow coming out, enormous. And then I became philosophical and said, look, maybe I should get the employees involved too. I transferred the private company and a public company, and I put in a corporate constitution. When I put in the corporate, the main principle in the corporate constitution was we predetermined what we do with the profits. So the first reason was the shareholders got 20% of the profits. The workers got 10% of the profits over and above the wages. Management got 6% of the profits. Research, 7% went to research and 2% went to the charity. And our charity was every year about 300, 400, 500 million, right? So that's the great thing about it. But anyway, the first year, our profits were up 40%. The second year, our profits were up 100%. The third year, our profits went up 200%. The message I want to get across is, when you engage employees in tangible terms, that they get a portion of the profits, you release an energy of untold proportions. Okay? So the message I want to get across, what the essence of the economic charter is, all politicians agree, all business people agree, pretty well most people agree, if the economy doesn't work, nothing else will work. If the economy doesn't work, you cannot feed the hungry. You cannot look after the most fragile people, the elderly, the sick, and the handicapped. But we do not talk. What drives the economy is the most important subject. We don't talk about it. There's reasons why. Because the world is still ruled by the golden rule. The people which have the gold or the monies, you don't see them anymore like the kings, in hundreds of years ago, right? So you don't see the people which have. They might live in Hawaii, they might live in Beverly Hills, they might live in Monaco, but they don't want to share the profits with the employees. Now, isn't it the most logical reason? So I'm not teaching, I'm not preaching, let's take away from the rich. I'm saying we must let the employees participate. When we bake the economic pie, when they participate, everybody gets a bigger slice. So that is really the reason, right? Okay, and because at this time, society came a long way from the caveman to the hunter and hunted, to the kings and the servants. And now basically we have an environment, the bosses and the disgruntled employees. Because the employees know the playing fields are not level. They're slanted towards the rich, and that's why. So the reason I've been so successful, I treated my workers as partners, but especially when I put in the corporate constitution, right? It's something really great. So again, the economic charter frights. I know pretty well. I interfaced with all politicians. On my board was Brian Mulroney, Bill Davis, Mike Harris, and at liberals, the president of the World Bank, but they're nice people. They mean well. They want to do well for Canada, but they're trapped in the system. The system doesn't work. Well, I know also young politicians from different parties that say, well, I'm elected, I want to bring that and that change. But the older politicians say, you can't say that because we won't be elected. Anytime you're going to bring forward somebody new, you could be criticized. It's a lot easier to criticize than bring something forward. So that's why the system doesn't work. So we must, when it comes down to the economy, we got to leave the politicians out of it. Because otherwise they print monies and monies and monies. Okay? So the essence, they're simple, I think, nothing to do, simple principles, nothing to do with politics. Number one is a country should not have debt. Okay? Because every housewife knows she cannot spend more than what her husband brings in, otherwise they wind up in a poorhouse. Every farmer knows he cannot spend more than what he gets for his crop, otherwise he loses the farm. So knows every businessman or businesswoman, they cannot spend more than the profits they made. So our politicians don't, And the interesting part of it, sometimes you got to look back in history and say, who is one of the great politicians or statesmen? Winston Churchill was a great statesman, In his later years, Winston Churchill said, Parliament doesn't work because it's only politicians. The mandate of a politician is to be elected or re-elected. That means They do all the things what's good to be elected. He said we need a chamber of citizens to balance out the parliament, right? But that's kind of difficult. So we could have it easier. The number one in our thing principally is no debt should have no debt, balanced budgets. Number two, the bureaucracy got to be in relationship to the amount of citizens we have. The latest survey was done about a year ago. Canada had 100 bureaucrats per 1,000 people. The United States had 70 bureaucrats per 1,000 people. Japan had 40 bureaucrats per 1,000 people, right? About 70 years ago, when I opened up the first factory, I put a sign up on the factory, "Do die making open for business." I didn't need a permit. I didn't go, and I just, I just did my things for years, right? Okay, then when I look back, maybe those were the heydays of Canada, the bureaucrats were helpful in the townships. If you want to build a factory, where can we help? Where can we thing? And everything was smooth and the highest living standards, right? Our living standards gone down about at least 50% over the last 50, 60 years. So we got to get back. We are over-regulated. I remember 50 years ago, when the first computers came on the market, the slogan was, if you get one of those computers, you could eliminate a total office floor. Now when you look around, there's 20 times more office buildings. What do you think they do in there? They don't make products in there. It's regulations, regulations, regulations. Now we have more regulators than people which want to make things. And we have so many regulators, they take out so much out of the system, there's very little left for the working class, right? So we gotta, but I want to stress again, no chainsaw approach. Like in a civilized society, every person's got the right to find a job, whatever the openings are. And so I'm not really blaming the bureaucrats, I'm blaming the system. And I'm not saying we should fire the bureaucrats. No, we should have a hiring freeze till we reach a certain amount, a very civilized situation, right? So that's very important, right? That's number two. That's how many bureaucrats we should have. Then our tax system is so convoluted, right? There's thousands and thousands. The tax book is about that thick, and one paragraph is more convoluted than the other. So we need a tax system which black and white, where high school students could fill it out, and if you make more money, you pay higher taxes, right? When I look back a few months ago, the great debate was the capital gains tax. There should be no more loopholes. Income is income is income. When you pay more income, you got to pay more. Okay, so that number four is very important, right? We should not destroy the capitalistic system. The capitalistic system needs harnessing when they get larger. But basically, say, give small companies below 300 employees the freedom to get to operate freely, right? That, like we did 50, 60, 70 years ago, right? Let them operate under the capitalistic system, or I would call it free enterprise. The key is, without free enterprise, you can never have a free society. And the free society is very dear to us, right? So they should, small business, that's the backbone. Small business should not pay a business tax because they make very little profits. They rather grow the company, they rather hire one or two employees, and the employees pay a wage tax. So governments make their taxes via the wage taxes, via income tax, right? Okay, and let the business get the red tape off. Small business were always the backbone of Canada, okay? So we got to get back and give them the rope. So small business is very, very important, right? So, but when they grow larger, then they have to share the profits with the workers, right? I mean, basically, if we don't change the capitalistic system is self-destroying. Every day there's less capitalists. And we got to realize the laws of nature are much stronger than any man-made law. We got to realize that. So in nature, when a species does not reproduce itself, another species will take over. The capitalistic species does not reproduce itself unless we shrink it down below 300. And when they get larger, because when they get larger, then the companies are managed by institutions, by a thing here, by a bunch of lawyers, by a thing here, and go haywire, right? Okay, so then they have no more affinity for employees, right? So that should be it. So that's the four is very important, that we should not destroy the capitalistic system. We give the entrepreneurs a chance, let them operate, let them create jobs. So young people would say, I want to do the same thing that this guy or that woman or whatever, right? Okay, so we got to change. So we got to change this. So for number 5, as I stated, when small companies grow large, then a certain percentage got to go to the employees, right? Then we come to number 6. Number 6 is high school should stop at grade 10. Then grade 11 and grade 12 should be, students should be exposed to the trades. It's a win for the students because it gives them extra knowledge. Knowledge, when the more knowledge you have, the more you make. So if they want to go to university later on after grade 12, so well, fine, good. But maybe a lot of kids would like to stay with the trades, right? Let me tell you just a story. Like we have over 400 factory. One of these days, one of my managers called me and said, I want to make more money. So I said, that's nice to hear. Nice you got that attitude. But he says, you're stifling my growth. You're stifling my growth. I said, how do I stifle? Well, because you don't allow more than 300 people per factory. So I said, look, but doesn't mean that you couldn't be smarter and make more money. So anyway, we went back and forth, but finally I had to say, look, if you replace yourself as the manager of that factory and you groom your assistant to be the manager, you get a cut from the old factory and you get the monies for a new factory. So I had managers replace themselves maybe 10 times. They maybe earn $10 million a year. I had quite a number of those, right? So it's small companies. Magna grew because we had small companies, right? We gave the managers the opportunity to run under the corporate umbrella when they saw it was an advantage, or they could stay out if they negatively affects them. So it's a unique system, right? And basically I'm saying, like I have a certain age. Yes, I'm 92 years young. Next year I'm going to be younger, and I'm not quite sure when I grow up what I will do. I'm not sure yet. But anyway, I have accumulated so much know-how, and that shouldn't be lost to Canadian people, right? Okay, it's a whole new way of running things, right? So that's very important. And I waited till I had a certain age because I know when I get in specifics that I have solutions for problems. I know I will wind up with some poison arrows, but look, I have a conscience. I do what my conscience tells me, okay? And life's been great to me. I hope that I still my life when the Canadian Economic Charter will be put in the Constitution. I'm hope still alive, but if I'm not alive, I open the door. It will come, right? So the essence is the human charter of rights alone is not sufficient. We got to fortify it with an economic charter of rights. Economic charters of rights will lead to economic democracies, and economic democracies are the basis for democracy itself. You cannot have democracy unless you got an economic charter, right? So that is important. We still have the financial elite, like I said, they might be in Hawaii, Beverly Hills. They don't want to share with. That time has to change, because if they don't do it, the capitalistic system will be taken over by the communistic system, right? So when we take a look, there's two systems now in the world. One is the capitalistic system, one's the communistic system. So when we take a look at China or Russia, right? And I spent a lot of time in Russia. I spent a lot of time with Putin. I met just about everybody. So what we have is in China, 10% of the population are part of the military, another 10% are the super bureaucrats. The 20% the other 80%, what's good for them, but don't stamp over the line, okay? So that's, would we wonder where freedom is restricted? No. We are a country which freedom is very much on our top agenda, right? Because we want to live. But the capitalistic system has a problem, right? About 1% here in Canada and in the States, they hold about 50% of all the wealth. So the 1% tells the 99% what's good for them. That doesn't work either, right? Okay, so we gotta keep the capitalistic system alive for small companies and let the thing grow, right? But let's say, let's take Canada as an example. You know, when you take a look, there's very few people economically independent. If you're not economically independent, you're not a free person. How come? I'm saying in Canada, if a woman or man works for 30 years, they should have enough accumulated that they own their own house or a little condo, mortgage-free, and they should have at least $300,000 in the bank that they can choose their own road to happiness when they get on in age. Huh? It's a shame that that's not the case. It shouldn't be. Okay, we have all the richness, all the thing. We can easily, the people, those are the minimum standards of a civilized society. That's the minimum standards to be economically free. Now, look, this is a grassroots. I can only bring forward ideas, but it needs people like you, right? Can you come over here and give me a hand? She's so great in words, and she plays a great role. And maybe you could explain just what you did this morning, how important it is, what we do, and how important you people are. Huh?
Thank you so much, Frank. Frank has great ideas here. And the reason this country is a mess, it's my fault. I voted. And then I thought they were going to look after it. Actually, it's your fault, and it's your fault, and it's your fault, because all of us voted, and then we didn't pay attention. Well, I'm glad you're here today, because you're obviously now paying attention. It's time to make a change. Greg started this morning, or this meeting, with the one comment that said, one conversation can change the world, or something to that effect. But that is exactly what we're having now. We're having a conversation. And what we want is, when we're done here, you to go out and have more conversations. Because if one person tells two people, and they tell two people, and we do that for a month, that one person will have reached 14 million people. In this room, if everyone did that, we would reach 100 million people. Well, that's more than there is in Canada. And if we reach them over and over and over again, they will be bound to listen to us. One conversation at a time. It's up to you. Tish alone could win this area if not a single Conservative or Liberal or NDP voted for her. If we just got that 60% that doesn't even bother voting to get up and decide to make a change, it is time for you to encourage your neighbors, encourage everyone to vote for a change. Don't talk about splitting the vote. Let's just vote to make a change. Let's make this country change. We've brought some brochures with the Economic Charter on it. It's also online at economiccharter.ca. There's also QR codes. You can share that information with everybody. Everyone on your phones has at least 100 contacts. If you reached out to 100 people and then reached out to 100 more, and then go and talk to your politicians, everyone that's campaigning at your door. You don't need to wear your PPC shirt. You can go and talk to the Conservatives, talk to the Liberals, get everyone talking about fixing the economy, about fixing the Economic Charter, about making a change. One conversation at a time. We can make this world a better place. We can fix Canada, and we can do it now.
Okay. Thank you. So anyway, it's great to be here, and very key is tell your friends, like Kirsten said, tell your friends that she could bring about change, Tish, and tell your friends, your family, etc., etc. And the economic charter, without economic charter, there is no, it makes so much common sense. Who could argue? I'm saying basically, without workers, you won't make a profit. So get them involved. Then it's amazing what they can do in their mind. So so who could be against that, huh? So I don't know why politicians jump on the bandwagon and say, look, we need an economic charter of rights. But you, the people, got to convince your neighbors, your friends, how important the economic charter is. And that's got to be brought forward when it comes down. The politician would have to write a term sheet where they would promise, if they be elected with Parliament, they would bring forward that the economic charter has got to be part of the Constitution, right? So the economic charter, there's 7 easy principles, right? Okay, and the 7th principle, I don't know if I should mention it again. We got to realize now that 95% of the food eaten in North America comes from industrial farms. In industrial farms, you see no more eagles fly. Why? There's no more rabbits. There's no more pheasants. We spray so much fungicide and pesticides, we kill everything. I don't know why there's not an outcry. Our kids they all have allergies and stage 2 diabetics, right? And if a politician says we cannot, so basically I'm saying, no Canadian kid should go to school hungry. No Canadian kid should leave the school hungry. And if somebody says we cannot afford that, that would be a poor statement, very poor, for the simple reason the medical costs ended up billions. But that brings us to another problem. A country which could feed its people never had a problem. Canada never had a problem. Family farms could feed Canada. Now family farms are practically on welfare. Kids of family farmers say, Mom, Dad, I don't want to be in the farming. I don't want to be on welfare. We gotta make it cool again. We gotta have a major program where kids want to go back because it's the most noble thing to provide food to feed people, huh? Okay, but family farms need a subsidy. It's not really a subsidy if they grow organic food. They must grow organic food, and there they would get via subsidy. It would take quite a while before we could feed all the people organic food, but we gotta start with the kids, right? Okay, so that is a very important, that's the number 7 principle, right? We gotta make sure our kids grow up healthy and happy, right? Okay, all right, thank you, and Kirsten, like the ladies always should have the last word.
I'm just going to say thank you very much, Frank. At 92, he's an example of what organic food and good health and exercise can look like at 92 and a half. I would like to say that before Maxime Bernier left, he did sign that he would support the Canadian Economic Charter of Rights. And I would like Tish at this time to come up and sign as well. And Bing Wong and any of the other politicians that are in the room. Lisa, please. We can sign these. And you can take these, copies of these. We have them online as well. Take them to all the politicians and make them sign it. Let's get this movement happening. And it's up to you. Have those conversations every chance you get. Thank you so very, very much. We'll get these pledges signed. So it's time to make a difference. Back to you, Greg.
Thank you so much. We're going to get that signed for Frank Stronach. Give it up again for Frank Stronach, ladies and gentlemen. Q&A. So we are going to do a quick Q&A for Frank Stronach. We'll just go to hands, I guess. If anybody wants to put up their hand, we'll do 3 questions for Frank. 3 questions for Frank. He is a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of wealth. And I see a hand over here, sir.
Mr. Stronach, I found your comments about industrial farming to be extremely interesting. And I find it unbelievable that one party, the Green Party, has never ever brought that up. And the PPC party is willing, I'm pretty sure, to support that motion. Could you comment on that?
I'm very healthy. My hearing isn't 100%. It's maybe 98%. Can you repeat the question?
So he said it's very funny that we have this Green Party that has not mentioned anything about the hardships of the farming industry in Canada, but this is something that the PPC does talk about. What was the exact question? Why do you think that is? Or?
Well, yeah.
Comment.
It's an interesting comment. I'd like to know your views.
Well, the problem with the Green Party is most of the Green Party are people in the city. They don't really live on the farm. But I shouldn't make that thing. They do have a concern, but to a certain extent, there's a little truth to that. Yeah. Okay. Sometimes you gotta take it. You can't be too harsh.
The other thing is the whole green movement is follow the money. It's a lot of virtuous signaling. We care about the environment, we care about that, but it is follow the money. The green movement is a $1 trillion industry, and it is not about making a change. We need to make a change like the PPC wants.
Yeah, like the PPC. All right, I see a hand from a young man over here. The young man there, sorry. No offense, sir.
I was wondering what your number 1 tip for young people would be?
Number 1 tip for young people, Frank.
I think for young people, there'll be food shortages coming up enormous for a number of reasons. The Ukraine war, but that's the smaller reason. The United States is utilizing 120 million tons of grain to make ethanol. Okay, with the food shortages coming up, they can't do that. The food shortages, the major problem is population growth, more highways, more subdivisions, more parking lots, and the soil's getting depleted. Okay, so there will be So there'll be a huge opportunity for young people to get into the farming, into the food thing here, right? Especially you should try to get organic, right? So there'll be for young people. That's because people got to eat, right? So who could ever bring forward better food, and you don't need this gigantic investment. Sometimes you can rent a few acres, and you can there's lots of things you can do.
Awesome.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Great. All right, this man put his hand up first. So.
Thank you very much for your presence here, Mr. Stronach. Dr. Stronach, I have a question, and I don't have all my facts straight, but I once interviewed Paul Hellyer, and his big message was that Canada the federal government could borrow money for big infrastructures interest-free until 1974. And I haven't corroborated this or backed this up, but I know John Turner was the finance minister at the time. I wanted to interview him, but he passed away 5 years ago. But the thing is, at the time, as I understand it, the national debt in Canada was $5 billion, and now it's what, $1 trillion, and if you combine it with provincial, it's $2 trillion. Could you have any comment on the parasitical nature of Canada joining the Basel Accord, if it's safe to even talk about it? That's another question, because people get popped off when they talk about it.
Could you simplify the question?
The Basel Accord. Have you heard of the Basel Accord?
I heard of that, yeah.
Money for governments to build the infrastructure, like the St. Lawrence Seaway or the highway system. Why are we paying $60 billion a year in interest when the left hand is borrowing from the right hand? I think this is parasitical and destroying the country.
The question is, can you comment on the parasitical nature of the Basel Accord? Does that sound familiar, or?
Well, I don't. There's quite a few subjects on the Basel Accord. Okay. Did you mention about highways or a grid system?
Well, I don't know 100% set my facts. But when I talked to Paul Hellyer, he was the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada in the 60s.
Well,
He said that Canada could borrow money interest-free, the federal government, to build... To do
no, there's no such thing than interest-free money. Somewhere, somebody's got to pay for it. Okay, that's the, yeah, but look, it's no, the problem is we borrow too much. Okay, the more you borrow, the bigger the hole gets. Yeah. Okay, so we gotta reach a thing here. Let's get the workers participating in making profits. Then we can raise the living standards enormously. Absolutely. And eliminate the debt.
Thank you for your question, sir. Should we do one more question, Frank? Is that all right? I see someone waving their hand. She looks very eager, and I don't want to let her down. Yeah. Go ahead.
I would like to get Mr. Stronach's thoughts and perhaps his opinion and advice on what we can do about the brain drain in Canada.
The brain drain?
What can we do about the brain drain in Canada? Do you mean intelligent people who are wealthy and successful leaving the country?
That's correct. Students graduating from here, young students graduating from here with great degrees and choosing to leave.
Well, at this time, there isn't that great a brain thing leaving, because there isn't that much brain to begin with. Because who's teaching the professors? There's no way you can no economy, nothing, right? Look, we are not gonna. There's something we gone wrong. Look, this country was so great 50, 60, 70 years ago. Everybody was helpful. It was, but now it's different, right? I mean, it seems like the regulators. I can hire my uncle or my nephew to be a regulator. Let's make it different. There's so many regulators required. We gotta trim things down, and we should try to get back to where Canada was maybe 50, 60 years ago. It was great, right? I mean, that's why I choose. I could have lived in any other country. It's such a great country, and I think we can do it. But you have to. It's got to be grassroots. Like we have, when you look at the economic charter of right.com, you how you be involved, because it can only be done via grassroots. And most of you have kids. You owe it to your kids. Because we need the change, and the change is we gotta straighten out the economics. We cannot leave the economics with the politicians. So they can do many other things, but not the economics.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much, Frank. Another round of applause for Frank Stronach. Unbelievable, the wealth of knowledge, supporting the PPC and Tish Conlon here in York, Durham. So, we are announcing 5 minutes left for the raffle. There are 5 different prizes. You have 5 minutes left to buy raffle tickets. Go see Jeanette, and we're going to be announcing that in 5 minutes. There's 5 different prizes: $750 prize, $350. There's a lot of prizes to win. But so 5 minutes for that. And of course, make sure you donate to Tish Conlon's campaign. And Tish, you wanted to thank the team, I think.
Yes. One of the things that has been so amazing about this journey I've been on is the people I've been with. And that's just one thing I wanted to say is I have the best team in Canada. Absolutely. I want to say a round of applause to my incredible team. If you're here, stand up. I love my team. We are battling uphill, but we are incredible. It's a David and Goliath battle. These guys are true blue, incredible people. So I wanted to thank them from the bottom of my heart. No matter what, that's how we move forward in Canada together. One of the things I also wanted to say that Frank, his generosity knows no ends, because with his love of organic food and farming, which is a passion of mine, He wants to make sure that children have food in schools. We are facing a crisis with food bank usage. And so all of us should be encouraging and be supporting healthy food for children. Healthy food creates healthy minds, creates healthy societies. So there's many reasons why this economic charter resonates with me. So thank you so much. And please, a big round of applause again for my incredible PPC team. Thank you. This is Jeanette Miller, my CFO, and what an amazing woman she is. Yeah, here she is.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming out. We're going to do the draw now. This is the economics as well. We have 5 great baskets. Does anybody want a ticket? Doug will come around and sell you one. We're going to get... Last call.